high intensity interval training. I loved that type of workout. It called me by name. And I've continued to implement that over time. But I've switched it more to incorporating that every so often and focusing more on strength training, where I now lift heavier weights. And I have found this to be the sweet spot for me. This is the funny thing about strength training. Strength training is great because what it does is it helps you build your lean muscle mass. And of course, if you incorporate proper food, you will notice your the fat dropping. Your body shape changes, your fat drops. Now, this is the thing that's interesting. Your weight on the scale may not change, and that's okay.
Hi, I'm your host, Roseanne Kamau, a certified nutrition coach with a background in psychology. Here on Hey Sugar Podcast, you will learn how to live a healthy and sustainable lifestyle without dieting. I'll be teaching you practical tips that you can incorporate in your unique lifestyle. I am going to help you break any dieting mindset traps and show you that a healthy and sustainable lifestyle is doable. So if you're ready to change your life for good and create a healthy and sustainable lifestyle for yourself, then this is for you. Let's go.
Hey everybody, and welcome to today's episode. I'm Coach Roseanne, and today we are going to be talking about 10 habits that can help you create a healthy and sustainable lifestyle. Now, this topic came as a result of me turning 50 this year. Yo, like when I saw I was 50, even I was shocked. Even I was shocked. I knew it was coming, but when we came, I was like, girl, you're there? Yeah, you're there already. And so I was asking my kids, does your mama look old? Because when we were younger and you would hear someone is 50, they looked really, really old. And so when I shared this on social media, a lot of ladies wrote to me and they're like, Roseanne, can you just share with us what are some of those things that you've done that have helped you create a healthy and sustainable lifestyle? And so today, that's what I'm going to be sharing. 10 habits that I've implemented in my life, and I'll be sharing in depth as to what you can do that are going to help you create a healthy and a sustainable lifestyle. Now, this podcast is all about empowering you, the busy woman, live a healthy and sustainable lifestyle. And so in today's episode, we're going to be diving right in. Okay, first things first. We're going to be drinking water. That's the first thing. You're going to hydrate. Now, when I was on my own weight loss journey, one of the things I needed to do was drink a lot of water. But even as over the years, I will be honest and tell you, this is an area where I've had to be very intentional in leaning in, because I'd noticed over the years, there are some days I won't drink as much water. And so one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to hydrate, because it's so essential for your bodily functions, right? I want you to think about your digestive tract. Like when you drink water, it helps digest things. So it's going to support your digestion. It also aids in your nutrient absorption in your body. Now, first thing I always do when I wake up is I drink lemon water. So I put lemon water, and I will chug that down. It's usually about 8 to 16 ounces. So it's about 1 to 2 glasses in the morning of lemon water. That's a habit I implemented 20 years ago, and I continue to implement it today. So hydrating, and drinking water is going to be important. Now, why else is water important? Appetite control. Now, there's a lot of times when your body will make you think you're hungry, but really what you are is you're thirsty. Now, how would you know that? Just by drinking water. If let's say you feel hunger and you had just eaten and you're feeling hungry, if you drank your water and you feel 15 minutes after you're still not hungry, you are most likely were thirsty. And so what water does is it helps you manage your appetite, number one. And sometimes because hunger can be thirst can be confused for hunger, just drinking that water and hydrating will help you and will help you recognize whether it's genuine hunger or not. The second thing that water does is it helps enhance your performance. Now, someone like me works out a lot, and I'll be talking more about that. But when you're drinking and you're hydrating, you're just going to notice that your performance is actually much more better because your muscles are now pulling in that water. Your cells are pulling in that water. You're not as fatigued. You're going to notice that you have better endurance. You're going to perform better when you're exercising. So because I exercise a lot, I move my body a lot, I always am drinking water. We talked about improved digestion. That's another thing that it's going to do. It's going to help you not become constipated because what's happening is you're keeping your digestive tract moving slowly. And what water does is it helps by ensuring that you're eliminating what needs to be eliminated, and that your nutrients, the foods that you're eating, you're able to absorb those foods well in. The next thing that water does is it helps boost your metabolism. Now, I want you to think about this. Now, when you drink cold water, you know what your body does? Your body is actually forced to warm up. When it's forced to warm up, this is how you're boosting your metabolism because your body wants to raise its temperature up. And so what this does, we can help by just a tiny little bit of helping reduce your caloric deficit. Your caloric deficit can contribute to your caloric deficit. And so it's really important that you're hydrating and you're drinking water for these reasons. And then finally, I want you to think about your overall caloric consumption. How many of us, maybe with a meal, when you go out, you order a meal with, let's say, I don't know, a soft drink, which, by the way, I don't know why they're called soft drinks because there's nothing soft about them. They harden our arteries. All right, that's an aside. We're going to talk about that in a different episode. But when you eat food, you can reduce your calories by drinking just water rather than, and I'm not saying don't, but rather than drinking with juices that are loaded with sugar or these drinks that are loaded with sugar. That is a simple way. If you go out, can you say, when I go out, I will make sure I eat my food with water. That reduction of those calories will help you long term. And especially if you're one of those people that tends to eat out a lot. And if you're eating out, you're combining that with sugary drinks. That's a simple way to reduce those calories. So swap those drinks with your water. Why is also water important? It's going to help detoxify. Like when we start with water in the first thing in the morning with your lemon has citric acid, and citric acid helps get things moving. So before you even eat anything, drink your lemon water. Have that citric acid in there. It has your vitamin C, which also helps plump up your skin. So even drinking water, not only is it going to help detoxify, but it's also going to help plump your skin. So that is one of those things that I've focused on, which is drinking water, a lot of water. I'm also going to share below on the link on the episode, a link that we created with our team that's going to show you how much water should you drink. So the link is below. Just go to the bottom of this episode, click on it, and it's going to show you how much water you should be drinking for your lifestyle. The second thing that I do is I'm very passionate about personal growth. And so I'm very careful about what I watch and what I listen. And so podcasts is one of those things that I listen to, and I listen to audible books and I read books. Personal growth is really important for me. So as we're talking about what are those 10 things that have helped me, I listen to personal growth podcasts and podcasts that are also going to help me in my business. So depending on the season of life I am in, you will either, in fact, when you look at my podcast, you will either find me listening to mostly personal growth and or business podcast. So I'm very intentional as to what I am allowing to watch, to listen to, and even to read. So not just podcasts, but also books. What kind of books are you going to be reading? I read, again, a lot of personal growth books. So books that are going to help me grow, whether that's a book like Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's a book that I love. The Compound Effect. That's another great book that I love. So I really look at books that are going to help me grow. It's something that I do on a regular basis. Number 3, I eat. When I eat and I think about a healthy lifestyle, food is going to always be a part of us, isn't it? Listen, our body is sustained by food and drinking. So if we are going to have to eat as human beings to survive, and food is what we're going to eat to survive, then why not give your body the best optimal foods? that's going to give you the best way, have the best body, whatever that is. And best body is not just about a look, by the way. It's also about how your energy. It's also about your focus. It's also about your mood. All these things are brought on by, guess what? What we eat. And so for me, eating whole foods most of the time has been very critical. Having that diagnosis of high cholesterol when I was 29 years old was a real wake-up call, to be honest with you. It was a real shocker for me. And because it shook me to my core, not only did I change my life, but I now started helping other women. And I know this happened because I made better choices with what I was eating. And so when we're talking about foods, you can see on the screen, these are the foods that I eat mostly. These are literally my foods. And whether I'm going out to a restaurant, whether I'm cooking these foods at home, these are the foods that I eat. So I make sure either my plate is balanced. I make sure mostly the foods are coming from the garden most of the time. Because for me, this is really important, not just for my body, but even for my family. It was really important that high cholesterol ended with my lineage, because I learned on my father's side, my grandfather, that's where we have high cholesterol. And so it was important for me to teach my family how to become healthy. And I pray that they carry this on. And that's why I'm teaching you, so that even you, whatever that is that you may have, whether it's a health, a lifestyle disease specifically, you can change that by what you choose and what you eat. And so this brings me now to treats in moderation. So for me, I splurge, but in moderation. So I don't eat processed foods all the time, but they are a part of my lifestyle. If I want to eat them, I enjoy them. Now, let me give you a quick story. Many years ago, I remember we had gone to a hotel, and you know how when you go to a hotel, they have buffets, right? So they lay out a buffet, and in the buffet, there's all these different foods. This is before I started this journey, by the way. So the kids were really, really young. And I remember when I looked at the buffet, I was like, because I've gone to this hotel, and because we've spent money here, I will eat every single thing that they have laid out. That's the mindset that I had. And even then I remember, you know how they give you like little desserts? And I remember eating some of these things, and I remember thinking, man, they don't taste good. Like they didn't, I wasn't happy. You know, it's like you eat and like, man, like that was such a waste. And so when I talk about treats in moderation, please, you must enjoy them. Because now what I've learned, and can you imagine this many years ago, I wasn't on this journey. But why do I remember this? I always say, it's like God knew, excuse me, of course, God knew He was going to put me on this journey. And so I had to experience that even before I was there. And it's like a core memory, because I remember this story so well. It was in the White Sands in Mombasa. I remember, okay? And so He had to make me go through that, so that when I'm now teaching you and I'm experiencing it for myself, we want to enjoy these treats. You don't want to eat them all the time, but can you enjoy them some of the time? But if you're going to enjoy them, at least enjoy something you love and you enjoy. So for me, there were these ones in a small cup, and I think you could see them on the screen. They just tasted horrible, and it was such a waste. Like, you don't want to waste calories. You don't want to waste your taste buds eating these things. You don't want to do that. Okay, sis? Anyway, so it's about enjoying you're enjoying your treats, but enjoy something you love. So for me, what are those? Chapos. Sometimes there are specific mandazis. I like the fleshy mandazis every so often. Croissants. So you'll notice those are the treats. Like, I'm very particular about what I'm going to enjoy. You know, I don't care for chocolate. I don't care for wine. Like, those things, I will see them and literally I will pass by. But if I'm going to enjoy a treat, like it gotta slap good, ain't it? Okay. So that's another part. So for me, moderation is important as part of this lifestyle. The other thing that has been super instrumental has been strength training for me. When I started my weight loss journey, I remember going to a boot camp. And this boot camp, that time we were doing HIIT exercises. So it was stations where you were doing a couple of different exercises in different stations for like maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds, or a minute. So HIIT type workout, HIIT, high intensity interval training. I loved that type of workout. It was immediately, it called me by name. And I've continued to implement that over time. But I've switched it more to incorporating that every so often and focusing more on strength training, where I now lift heavier weights. And I have found this to be the sweet spot for me. So combining HIIT and strength training. And the HIIT, I only do a couple of, by the way, like 1 or 2 times in a week. And I focus more on strength training 3 to even 5 times a week. So the key for me is I have realized and I've seen the power of strength training, building lean muscle mass. Now, this is the funny thing about strength training. Strength training is great because what it does is it helps you build your lean muscle mass. And of course, if you incorporate proper food, you will notice your the fat dropping, your body shape changes, your fat drops. Now, this is the thing that's interesting. Your weight on the scale may not change, and that's okay. And in fact, mine went up because over time I've really worked on strength training. Now, this is the interesting thing. Because over years, there's a lot of people who focused on the scale or being driven by the scale. We become a slave to the scale. I'm one of those people. I'll be like, girl, ditch that scale. Throw that scale out, man. Like, really throw it out. Because there's a lot of women who have had a really bad relationship with the scale. And so what I'd encourage you to do is when you do strength training is to recognize the number on the scale may not change. In fact, when I started boot camp, the first month, my coach weighed me. I actually gained 5 pounds. I had also begun to notice something interesting or peculiar. My clothes were looser. Everything I was wearing had just 1 month. Things were just loose. But the scale was different. And so I remember us having a conversation with him. And I remember him telling me, oh no, you've just gained more muscle. And for whatever reason, because I also remember this, I hadn't become a slave to the scale per se. So I just remember going to study and to understand what does that actually look like? You have more lean muscle mass. And for me, it made perfect sense. Knowing muscle is a metabolically active tissue, it actually helps you burn more lean muscle mass. It was just great. So strength training is another thing that I have loved, and I have something that I've embraced as part of my lifestyle. Walking is another thing. Now listen, walking is the most underrated form of movement. Most underrated. And it's one when I tell my clients, just start walking, they'll be like, that's it? I'll be like, girl, yeah, just walk. Think about it. Really think about it. Think about how our ancestors lived. Our ancestors mostly never struggled with their weight. And that's because they walked a lot. They ate a lot. By the way, all these things I'm sharing are the things our ancestors did. And so because our lifestyle now has been hijacked, we now live a more kind of Western lifestyle where we're sitting down a lot in our cars. We're sitting in our offices. We are sitting and we get home when we are resting. We're sitting a lot more. But what I'm saying is, can you begin to walk more? Can you begin to move your body more? Can you stand up more rather than sit down? In fact, I made a conscious decision. When I'm going to be doing my podcast and I'm doing solo episodes, I'm going to be standing up. Why? Because it's important that we are moving this body and we're activating our body as much as possible. So walking is one of those things. Now, how many steps should you walk? I know that's the other question everyone is talking about, might be asking. Well, there's this company that's from Japan that was selling an app, okay? And they came up with this number of 10,000 steps. You know, if you want to do 10,000 steps, that's great. That's about a 5K. At least for me, when I do a 5K, it equals to about 10,000 steps. If you do 7,000 steps, that's great. But you know what I want you to do? Literally, can you look for ways to move your body more? If you say are in an office and your office is on the 10th floor, can you make the decision to climb up those stairs to go into your office? That's movement. If you're going into the mall and the mall has an escalator, an elevator, and it also has stairs, can you decide instead, let's use the stairs rather than the elevator? If you're going to see your doctor or you're going to see a friend and they live in an apartment building, instead of using the elevator, can you use the stairs? All I want you to do is I really want you to begin to think, what are these little steps I can begin to take? What are these little things that I can do that are going to help me increase my walking and increase my steps? Because if you now combine strength training and you combine that with walking, girl, and we're eating well, game over for you. This is how you create a sustainable lifestyle. And when you're doing these things, by the way, these things are they're not things, the thing a lot of people say is like they're looking for quick fixes. I'm like, I promise you, it's adding these things day in, day out. And the minute you make that decision, the change has already been done. You will keep doing them because it's not hard. It's working hard. See, we're all supposed to be working. Let me give you a quick story. Many years ago, I remember we're going to Shags and we're going to visit, to visit my grandparents. And from a distance, I saw my grandfather walking because he used to have this hat that he used to wear. He was tall, our family were tall. And I saw him. He was 97 years old, Wuka John. 97 years old, walking. And what I heard was he used to walk morning and evening, 5Ks in the morning. He would go to the shops, come back, go to his farm. 97 years old, strong as ever. Again, even then, I wasn't doing what I was doing. But why did that land at me? Why did it stick at me? Because obviously God knew this is what I was going to be doing. And so I want you to look at those people who've gone ahead of you and how they've lived a healthy lifestyle. So when I think about health, I think about my grandfather. I also think about my grandparents who had sharp memory. And they had sharp memory because they had community, which is my next point. So for me is leaning into relationships and community that edify. One of the things my grandmother did was she had community, women that she would hang out with. And so that's one thing I'm very intentional on. So I have several groups that I'm a part of. I have 2 groups where we're couples. So my husband and I and other couple friends. These are 2 separate groups. One we do Bible study, one we do life in fact, both of them, we do life together. So these are our mentors that we really look up to that help us on our own life journey. So plugging into these groups and being intentional on meeting, and we actually meet monthly. So we're very intentional on how we would want our lives to be. And so we lean into these relationships, my husband and I, where we have those 2 groups that help us. I also have my girlfriends that I hang out with. I also have girls where we just go sit down, talk, laugh, discuss life's issues, whether those are my high school girlfriends, whether these are high school girlfriends that we do business with. So I also have these groups where I'm very intentional on hanging out with them because I recognize the power and how they've helped me over the years. These groups, by the way, even when we lived in Boston, I had the same thing. My husband and I had a group of friends where we used to meet every single month and we used to do life together. I had a group of girlfriends where we would meet. And then I also have my sisters who I hang out with, who we talk a lot with. So the key here, if you're hearing what I'm saying about relationships, we human beings are social human beings. And so it's important that you ask yourself, what are those things that are important to you? Now, when I moved back to Kenya, I obviously didn't have that community. And you know what I did? I had to build community. I had to plug into community. And so sometimes you may be asking, Roseanne, how do I create community? You know what you do? Create one. Invite friends. Sometimes you're going to have to take that lead yourself and do that work. Invite them to your home. Invite them for dinner. Invite them for lunch. Invite them for a potluck. In fact, by the way, even these meals, one of the groups that we meet in, we do a potluck where everybody brings a dish. So you don't have to take everything on yourself, right? And then what will happen is, I'm telling you, God will connect you to the right people who are going to be it's like your people. It's your people. And how do you know they're your people? When you leave that group, you leave feeling edified. You leave feeling like you're growing. You leave feeling full. You're not living empty. And how do you know that the wrong groups or the wrong friends? You'll feel drained. As soon as you leave that group, you're going to leave feeling, man, why do I feel so drained? Why do I feel like something is off? That's not the right group. It's that simple. Like you will know because your body talks to you. All right, the next thing is mood and managing my mood and energy. Y'all, this was new. This was kind of newish, specifically maybe the last 2 years when I just began to notice, man, my moods are changing a little bit and I ain't sure what's going on. And what I realized was I'm perimenopausal. And so when you have your hormones shifting, my mood was changing. And because my mood was changing, I had to really try and figure what are the things to do, because at some point I'd actually thought, I'm going to start a hormone replacement therapy, by the way, which is something a lot of people are saying is good for you and it's important for you to do. I considered it, but because of the lifestyle changes I have been very intentional on doing and making, So far, I don't think I need it so far. And that's why I'm not saying I'm not going to get it. And that's why I use the word so far, because I have figured I have been able to work on my, so far on my hormones right now. And so hormone replacement therapy is not a bad thing. In fact, you can look it up. And I want you to look up the latest research on it. But the one thing I noticed is my mood did change and my energy dropped. And so guess what I started doing? Is I began to focus on walking more and dancing. I know we talked about walking. No, I haven't talked about walking, but I started walking more. That's the next thing. So I started walking more. So I literally would just get up. I would notice my mood was low. Let me tell you guys, I remember having a conversation with my husband, and I remember saying, I think, because I've never been one to have depressive episodes. But because of these hormonal changes, I've been perimenopausal. I remember saying, man, if this is how depression feels, it's not good. Because it's almost like I can't even explain it, but there was a lull. And then I would then notice a day after, it's like I am back to feeling normal. And I notice these shifts on and off, on and off, on and off. And I'll be like, this does not feel like me, man. This is not my body. And so doing more research, I realized it's because of the hormonal shifts that were happening in my body being perimenopausal. And so one of the things that I did was I was like, you know what, get yourself out of the house. So I would get myself out of the house. I would work outside more, sit out in the sun, but go out for walks. And I would actually track, because I tend to be very mindful. At what point would then energy kick back up again? And so this is why I say, you guys, sometimes we're going to have to get ourselves out of our own rut and really do the work. Because once I walked out, the first kilometer is when I noticed a slight shift. 1 kilometer, imagine. So I was like, okay, maybe if I do some sprints, because then the places I walk, I kind of know, you know how you have if you walk different places, I'm like, okay, I have a couple of hills. I'll be like, let me run up those hills. And I'd make myself run up those hills. And you know what? Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. But I still did those things. But what I realized was, the more I did this, the more I got out. A kilometer in is when I would notice a slight shift. By 3K, I'd notice better. So let's assume, I want you to imagine, it's almost like you've been depleted of energy. Then 1 kilometer would feel like maybe 30%. By 5K, I'd be okay, 50, still not at 100. But I kept doing that, and I noticed it would get better and better. And I'll be like, you know what, I'll take 50, I'll take 70%. Forget this 0%, because I didn't like that feeling. Then I started adding dance. You guys, when I started adding dance into my routine, I don't know whether it was I don't know, but there was like a game over. Because now I truly felt like myself. I started going for dance classes twice a week, on Thursdays and on Saturdays. And it was a combination of factors, to be honest with you. A combination of enjoying the classes, enjoying the dance, enjoying the teacher, because his energy is insane, enjoying the ladies that we're doing dance with, just being free. And since then, I'm telling you, I have noticed my energy and mood. I'm back to myself again. So the key is you've got to look for what that thing is for you. And this is all I know, is the more you try and you apply yourself to a process, the more you sort of begin to notice what are the things you like. Now, I've tried a couple of dance classes, by the way, and why I enjoyed them, I didn't fully love them. But this class, for whatever reason, I loved the music, the instructor, the class, like everything about it just worked for me. So it's important that you figure what that thing is for you. So dance and movement was great. And then sleep. You guys, I'm going to do a whole episode on sleep. Because, man, when I tell you I struggled in 2020 to 2022, that was a struggle. Perimenopausal, again, hormone shifting. It took me a while to figure it out. But I'm going to do a whole entire episode on that, because I think that episode also, when I shared that on our email list, Coach Roseanne, and I'll share, if you want to join our email list, I share emails every so often. I'll share that below. When I share that on our email list, this email is the one where we've had, up until today, the most responses, because a lot of people recognized my story in them, how I struggled with sleep, how I was stuck on social media and just finding myself almost addicted to social media. And I'll be doing a whole episode on that. But now that I have managed, I'm on the other side now, and I'm able to sleep. I'm telling you, this has been a game changer for me. And again, in fact, I was asking God, Yanni, why did I have to go through that? Why did I have to go through that? And sometimes you're going to have to go through things to really be able to understand what other people are going through. So I struggled with my sleep for 2 years, 2020, 21, 22-ish. That's when I now really began to, I have to figure this whole thing out. And I will be doing a whole episode on that. So please take a look, stay on the lookout for that. But sleep is critical to your overall well-being. In fact, they say sleep is the foundation of of your health. Forget food, forget water, forget movement. If you do not sleep, and that episode I will describe because I went to the doctors. Listen, I want you to look out for that. I want you to check out for that. But sleep is something I do not play with it. And I don't want you to play with your sleep. It is not a badge of honor to not sleep. It is important for your overall health, not just how you look. I want you to think about your brain. I want you to think about your mental clarity. I want you to think about your energy. If you don't sleep, it's going to affect your hormones. It's going to affect your insulin. It's going to affect your cortisol. And if fat loss is a goal and you're not sleeping, sis, I'm telling you right now, you're just banging on a wall and you ain't going nowhere. So sleep is important. So these are my 10 top tips that have helped me maintain a healthy lifestyle. And I think as you're seeing, it hasn't been smooth sailing, right? And part of that is recognizing it's been the process, recognizing that nothing is ever smooth sailing, but also recognizing the areas where you are not doing well in. Are you intentional in becoming better? When I recognized I wasn't drinking enough water, I had to make sure I look for ways to drink more water. Adding more herbal tea. So you'll notice if you on my Instagram at Coach Roseanne, you'll see me with my peppermint tea, with my rooibos tea, with my green tea. So drinking a lot more of the herbal teas to get my water in, flavoring my water. I drew a lot of lemon water, citrusy water. Sleeping, that was another area where I 2 years, I wasn't sleeping and I had to figure how to sleep because I needed to be healthy. So recognizing that, yes, will there be road bumps along the journey? Absolutely. But are you willing to do the work to rectify where you've gone off course? Please say yes, because the key is about creating healthy habits that are what? Sustainable long-term. So thank you guys for joining me for this episode. I hope it's been helpful. If there's something else that you would want to learn, you want to hear more, please do let me know below. I cannot wait to hear from you. And as always, remember, you've got one life, you've got one body, and I want you to treasure it.